Married people, what did you not find out about your SO until after you got married? Story 1. While we were dating, my husband always told me the story about how he used to race dirt bikes and wrecked one time so badly that he had to have surgery to reconstruct his nose. I had wondered why he looked so differently in his younger pictures. Anyway, it wasn't until we had been married several years later that his mother heard me mentioning that story and how scary that must have been for her, worrying about her son. And she didn't know what I was talking about. The truth was that he never wrecked a dirt bike, but his nose looked different because he had been ashamed of his larger than average Italian nose. So she saved up her money to buy him the nose job. Story 2. That he knew how to ballroom dance and took a cake decorating course for an art credit. I learned it the same night. I couldn't decorate cupcakes and he took over. Later at the event, he grabbed me and waltzed perfectly. Can't wait for the next few years. Story 3. I'm probably late to this party, but I used to be married. That's no longer the case, so it goes. Anyway, I was getting dinosaur stuff for our boy, and his mother said something along the lines of, "I don't like dinosaurs and I'm happy they are not real." I chuckled, thinking she meant she is relieved her life is not like Jurassic Park, being chased by these giant predators. No. Turns out she believed dinosaurs never walked this earth. I had known her for 6 solid years, and this completely blew me away. She's swiping me with horror. She thinks that people are guessing when they put partial bones together and just fabricate these creatures. I'm still affected by this even years later. When I go on dates, there is a litmus test now. I ask what her stance is on dinosaurs every first date, not making that mistake again. Story 4. That she was a bank robber. She told me she saved up $700 from working summer jobs and babysitting while in high school. We get married and get on our way to Branson, honeymoon capital of America, am I right? On the way, she confesses to me that she did not, in fact, save up $700 from part-time jobs. She admits that she saved up over $7,000 from her jobs. So, we go on an extravagant, for me, week-long spending spree of a honeymoon. We do everything. Helicopters, boat rentals, every show, see a souvenir, we buy it. Oh, a quilt, $500, sure. We spend over $6,500 extra on this trip. We get home on a Sunday afternoon. We both have to return to work the next morning. There are several messages on the answering machine. This was in 2000, before either of us had cell phones. The third or fourth message plays. It's her boss from the bank she works at telling her to contact him at once, that there is an issue they need to discuss, and leaves a number. Up to this point, I am in the dark, but by Monday morning, it has all hit the fan. I learned that there was no mysterious savings account from high school. I learned that she had been transferring money from a couple large accounts on a regular basis to her own account. The total was somewhere north of $7,700. The bank was pissed. The clients were pissed. The authorities were already neck deep in this, and they were very scary, to say the least. After several meetings, it was decided that if we made full restitution, the bank would not press felony charges. So we now have one unemployed wife who is likely unemployable, one scared husband desperately trying to get his bank thieving wife a job anywhere, and one debt due immediately for $7,700. We gather all the money left over, borrow $500 from her parents, $5,500 from mine, and my next paycheck. You want to know stress? Ask your parents to help you pay back money your new wife stole from a bank. We get the bank paid back by the end of the week. After several weeks, things have died down some. She's working at McDonald's, I pulled strings with manager friends, and we have begun paying back the parents. We actually don't hear anything for a while, and the immediacy of the crime has subsided. In fact, it wasn't until 2002 that we were contacted to appear in court. We were still young and ignorant, so we get lucky there. The feds were easy to work with. The bank didn't make a huge deal about it since the money was returned. It is a small town bank, 2 branches total, so somehow we avoided any real heavy issues. We took the advice of some guy who represented the bank, and really, we just wanted this part of our lives to be over, so we would have done anything. She went into court, sans lawyer, and pled guilty to a Class C misdemeanor. The judge gave her 2 years probation and the restriction of never working in an FDIC establishment. And this is how my life as a married man began. TLDR, wife robbed a bank. We spent it all on a honeymoon. I found out when we got back home. Story 5. I didn't realize until after we lived together that she can't keep the bathroom floor dry. When she showers, I feel as though half the time she points the shower head at the ground outside of the shower. When she gets out, I imagine her shaking her body off in a K9 fashion. If she washes her face at the sink, I visualize her saying, "1 handful of water for me, 1 handful of water for you," to the floor. Story 6. Found out about a year after we were married when we went to buy a house. We were both in our 30s, and I had already bought and sold a house before. Took us well over a year to find the exact house we wanted and applied for a mortgage. I thought it would be a slam dunk, and I was floored when the bank called and said our application for a mortgage was rejected. I asked for an appointment to find out why. We both went to see a loan officer. The conversation went about like this. "We take both spouses' incomes and credit history into account when applying for a mortgage. Your incomes together meet the threshold for getting this mortgage. Your," pointing at me, "credit history is almost flawless. There is a slight issue that happened 3 years ago with a late payment, but that is nothing to be concerned about. However, your," pointing at my wife, "credit history is an issue." And he pulls out sheet after sheet after sheet of credit issues with my wife. Late payments after non-payments after credit card after credit card. It seemed like it went on forever. She just stared forward the entire time. We had to apply for a mortgage using solely my income. TLDR, found out a year into our marriage that my wife's credit history was a nightmare. Story 7. I'll give you one from my wife, who doesn't have an account. She didn't realize just how much I love talking to her. We have been married almost 9 years, and it was just 6 months ago that she was homesick, and I had a day off from school and work, very rare, and she hears my phone alarm go off. She was like, "What the fuck is that going off for?" Me, looking sheepish, "It means you're off work and I can call you in about 5 minutes. She thought it was adorable and told everyone in her office the next day. Story 8. Not quite after we were married, but I did my best to never fart around my wife while we were dating. I kept this up for a good 6 months. Then I guess I figured it was safe. If she left me at that point just because of my farts, then it wasn't meant to be. The first time I farted around her, I swear she seriously considered leaving me. I wouldn't have blamed her either because my farts are very, very, very smelly sometimes. We have now been married 7 years and have a son and twin daughters on the way. Also, smelly farts appear to be genetic. Story 9. That I would never be able to have a kitten. I've never had one, and I will never have one as long as I am married. Lesson learned. Always ask the important questions before the proposal, people. Story 10. Well, after reading all this, I'm a debt-free 26-year-old that has no mental disorders and a family that is loving but remains distant. I do fart. Let's not look at each other's poop. Line up over here, ladies. Story 11. Not about my SO, but about me. Apparently, I have a birthmark on my ass that looks just like a shit smear. I didn't know that until 2 weeks into the marriage. She tells me about my permanent skid mark and that I saw it when we first started dating, and I really did think it was poo. It took me seeing it like 3 or 4 times before I realized it was just a birthmark. See, I'll always love you. God, I love that woman.